You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
What? Oh God, what? What do we do?
It's just there's this Smell, our corp, the core NC Corp Smell has their birthday fleet today, and they're doing Les Sharks.
Yeah.
And Hordesy is well in Feroxes, and it just entered system with a full Stuka fleet. So I predict a very dead Horde Ferox fleet here in a couple of seconds.
Or it's going to be a dead Leshek fleet. One of the two. Maybe they're
Right, the Leshak fleet's already almost dead. We've been fighting almost full Horde Ferox and almost full test Ferox fleet, so our Leshak fleet has been eating shit the entire time.
Also, hi. Hi, how's it going? Hi, Earth.
Hello.
This show is going to be a shit fest because I didn't make any plans, so I hope you're able to talk a lot.
Oh, come on. Anyone that knows me knows that's true.
Also, hi, Anominate. How's it going?
Hey. Not too bad.
Not too bad, bro.
Yeah, for those that want to know what's up, hi everyone, welcome to the Meta Show. Mittens is not here. He's on a boat in the south of France. So you're going to see 2 boats to make up for the lack of Matani since he's on the other boat. So Zalman, thank you for 31 months. 3 months, thank you very much. Unaboki, Zukuri, and Apple Pear Leet, thank you for your 9 months subscription. Welcome, guys. Pacify via Spino. 5 months, thank you. And Aerith, 26 months. Wow, Aerith, I didn't know you subbed to this channel. That's new.
Dude, I've got I forget to for months on end because I don't show out. But yeah, when I show up as a guest, I try.
So, new show today. The only topic I can literally think of is locals coming back. What? What the fuck's going on here? Why are they walking back this?
Well, to be fair, it was supposed to be a temporary experiment in the first place.
Right? Yeah, but we all know the real story is they touched the stove and that shit hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, I had 10 billion ISK riding on October when they got their bonuses. So why are they doing this a month early? Is it really that bad?
I mean, I think there's enough public stats at this point to show just how bad it was. I think there's even more coming out shortly. I've seen Reaver's advanced numbers from Tuzzy or whatever, and she did some excellent market analysis, and it looks like it's very in line with what we expected to see, like in line with even our internal metrics as well. So all the metrics show 15 to 30% hits across the board if you look at all the public metrics.
You don't need CCP data to see how bad this was.
I mean, I could show you some data that's going to show you how bad it was, and we're going to pull up the picture in about 2 seconds. There it is. Rate My Ticks gone. They just deleted that place. Brothers of Tangra's down 1,400. Hard Knocks dropping. Pan Intergalactic Business Association plummeting. Horde plummeting. Darkness plummeting. Dangerous Voltage is dead, finally. I mean, they've been taking a while. But you're starting to see gains in groups that actually play the game. Which I don't understand how that'd be any different than normal, I guess. But a lot of groups are falling off. And there's actually a corp on this metric called the Iskid Empire, or they're literally high-sec bots. Literally 800 high-sec bots. Their Z-kill board for the last month has 1 kill mail. 1 out of something like 3,000 losses. So, yeah, I don't even know what is going on.
Yeah. For all of the talk about how Blackout totally ruined botting, really, I think all it did was sort of force them to move.
Some numbers I've seen, and I'm going to ask if this is in line with what you've heard, but numbers I've seen, there are 12 regions of 0-0 right now that are dead. And that means 2.0 or less ADM activity across the whole region. That is scary. If it was just bots, you'd see pockets of like one region here, maybe a half a region there. But the fact that 12 separate nullsec regions are completely empty. Whew.
Well, I mean, this is essentially what we had told very publicly on the Meta show to CCP, and obviously I would echo the same things in private, but it was an accretion disk type thing where the large, more centralized powers would gain at the expense of the others, right? You would see them be able to hold proportionally their people a little bit better, a little bit longer, and their people would still be able to make a lot of ISK. Like Delve was still number one by a hilarious margin, and you can argue that it was even more so proportional compared to the rest of Null. So, test gains, goon gains, Pandemic Horde to some degree gains, and then, everyone else eats shit, right? I mean, that's what everyone told CCP would happen. That is what happened. And then, in addition, you see a ton of flight of the Null population from the game. And now, for us, we have to make a decision, like, how do we hype this? How do we get the people back? Like, how do we boost morale again for Eve, for those that have left, and draw them back into Eve, and hope that we don't lose thousands of players long term. Like, there's going to be some people I don't think we get back. That's just the way of gaming. When you kind of wander off, it's easy to stay wandered off. But I'm hoping we can get the majority back.
Let's see, Killer B, you have been known to go AFK from time to time. What's got you away from the game right now?
Like the last 3 months, he's been AFK. Yep.
What's got you? What's going to bring you back to the game? What would it take?
I don't know. At the moment, I'm gonna see if I can get some content out of the deployment we just started towards GOTG or Dead Coalition or whatever.
Wait, hold on. I don't want to interrupt, but you just said something I've not heard yet. NC Dot deploying against GOTG?
Yeah, we just moved. We deployed a fort in the border of Tina and Cobalt Edge, and we're just starting to hit some jump gates in Tina and see if we can get some fights out of them, I guess. Make a, be a bit of a pain in the ass, I guess. That's what we want to do. Should be fun. I wasn't really involved in any of this. Like Eric said, I've been inactive for the last 3 months, and I don't think I'll be back to a degree that I have been active in the past for another. I really can't tell, but probably for a while, because I've been very, very busy in work and real life lately, and I actually enjoy it. So I think I'm going to keep doing that. So I'm probably not going to have too much time for any kind of computer games, to be honest. I haven't even been able to play Classic WoW as much as I wanted to, which is kind of sad. But anyways, so I'm hoping that I can do some Eve stuff in this deployment. And then in terms of what CCP has done, I think that, but this has started, ever since the Citadel patch, basically. It started creeping in. It's just become more and more effort to create content, at least on the kind of content that I'm looking for, as in, sieging timers, sieging structures, and then getting fights out of that. Nowadays, with all the time zone tanking that you can do, it seems kind of pointless for me to go and hit a bunch of GOTG structures, because I know they're all EU TZ timed or China TZ timed, and I'm not going to be around in China TZ, so that's kind of pointless. And that's just been happening with almost everything they've done recently. And over the last couple of years, they've just made it harder and harder for FCs to generate content on the larger scale. Sino changes is another good example of that. I think that the Sino changes, they are pretty irrelevant if you play it right. But to be able to play it right, the FC or the person organizing the fight or the campaign or whatever has to put in so much more effort to make sure that there's sufficient, recon alts available, recon characters they can open the Sinos and stuff like that. So that's why I'm a bit upset at the moment. Also, I don't like the whole idea of the Chaos era or whatever. I think the whole premise behind that is pretty questionable.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
I think just randomly, at least to what it looks like to me, is they just literally, they're just randomly changing stuff more or less and looking for what sticks, for what, looking what gets them the change that they're interested in. And I don't know, that seems like a weird concept.
Yeah, I agree. Eve is a whole bunch of very complex, interconnected systems, and just poking it randomly with a stick seems dangerous to me. And I think with Blackout, we saw exactly that.
Yeah, it had been. You got to remember, it had been a long time since CCP had really gotten burned on something. I mean, Drifters was kind of they did, but they got burned 2 times in really quick succession with Drifters and then the blackout, and one of them had very serious player activity implications that may never go away completely. I do believe we'll get most back, but that's going to permanently hurt the game to some degree. And then, so if you're them, you've done something that has driven players away. Do you believe that you can do organic changes to get organic growth to offset that? Like, do you believe you can grow again? CCP has never shown any indication they can retain people despite years and years of redoing the tutorial over again and the new player experience again. They've always failed. And if anything, you could argue they've gotten worse at it. So putting, if you're one of those people that are like, oh, really pro blackout and we're going to get growth out of this, you're deluded. Like, it would take years of growth to offset what they just did to themselves, even if they improve their current rate of retention. So yeah, like this has been a pretty bad thing.
Without breaking NDA, what if that was their goal? To plummet the numbers down to a manageable number, to shrink the game, and then build back up from there, right?
So, no, that would imply CCP has plans, and CCP doesn't really do that anymore.
Well, if that was someone's goal, they should be fired. Like, that's the hit to the CCP's bottom line there was big.
I know, I'm speaking from like, these guys are crazy mentality, because they are. Like, it made no sense. I mean, I understand that they thought no local was an experiment, but for years we have said that you can't do no local. You just can't. It's not going to work, because the game, you have to have a nice healthy balance of people who want to make ISK and feel safe enough to do it in a game versus the people who are going to hunt them. And if you make it so that the people will never feel safe, they're never going to make ISK, and then there's nothing to hunt.
Well, this is something we've been talking to CCP about for a while. I don't think that there's not a desire on CCP's part to do something like that. It's time, right? It's always dev time. They're extremely limited. We've been proponents of, because I'm personally a proponent of local not functioning the way it should with as perfect intel. I don't like that. Right. I would like to see a granular system where you trade risk versus reward. Like, let's say you get perfect local in core systems that you designate, but maybe that your ticks go down or there's less amounts, whatever, right? Some sort of geography to space, and then, no local almost, or very, very delayed or something. Then you get bigger ratting bounties. I don't know, just something like that, where let the players decide the level of risk tolerance they have. And if they want to be really, really safe with local, then fine, they pay a price for that. But just shutting it off, all it did is make Null feel really empty, and it already kind of was. And then you just feel like you're wandering around in an empty galaxy, and you could die at any time, and that's cool, I guess. But if you just feel alone, how cool is that, right?
Yeah, there wasn't that. You bring up a very valid point. As a guy who likes the solo PvP, when I was playing during the summer, because I'm logged in really, except for today, to DD some dreads. I haven't logged into Eve in a couple weeks, and that's because I enjoy solo PvP. And when you fly around solo, and yeah, you may come across someone eventually, but after 50 or 60 jumps, just to randomly die, just on a random warp in because there's no local, and you don't know if you're ever going to find anyone, that just feels like you just spent 2 hours roaming around for nothing in this game. It was already empty as it was before the no local. But with that, but here's the question: then what is there to be happy about now? They're going to bring back local. The Sino changes are coming in. What does that mean going forward?
It means at least we'll return to a semblance. We'll probably get some of the players back right away, like that feel like it may be that their game style is not being completely disrupted, so they'll come back a little bit. Then we'll probably settle in for the holidays where we get a little bit of growth through January. And then we'll see maybe a couple wars will break out. I don't know. The Sino changes aren't horrible at the scale. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a big change, but any ship popping a Sino was always kind of bullshit, right? Especially like rookie ships. There was no downside to losing piles of them in NPC space, right? Now you're going to be a little more thoughtful. Now you can do a little bit more interdiction. It's going to be interesting to see what sort of meta arises in low sec. That's where I'm particularly interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I got to ask, maybe a nominate, you can answer this one, or even Kill It B. What's it going to be like in low sec now that Sino changed? Because roaming around in your really expensive battleship, and there's few people that like to do that, but not every ship you encounter is going to have a Sino fit now, right? There was always that fear of, when you're roaming around, is that guy going to appear with a Sino? Because everyone has a Sino fit. right? So what
No,
happens next?
it's a lot harder to bait fleets that don't want to fight, and you have your fleet, you see that really tanky ship, and he is no longer a threat. Now he's just an easy kill.
Ooh. So you're talking about like even in 0-0, so like those groups that want to just roam around and never fight you now have no fear, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah. Like this, and even if a recon does pop up, it doesn't take that many people to just insta pop the thing.
Right.
We're gonna need heavy sinos. That's one of the things I've been a proponent of is like FCs for escalation or something. We want a heavier sino of some kind. I don't know what ship that would be. I don't know if it'd be like a monitor or something like that, but there
What
should
if
be
they made a
something.
new ship? What if they made a Sino ship where that only
Yeah.
that ship can light Sinos? It does literally, like maybe it has a specific role. Like when it lights a Sino, it can't lock anything, it can't target anything, it can't, like its only role is to light a Sino.
Then why not give monitor sinos? You know.
Seems
Well,
unnecessary.
monitors still have purpose though. Monitors still use target paints, they can probe, like they still have a use.
I think it would be nice to keep some of that. Is this ship a Sino ship or not in the game?
Right.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to see a dedicated ship. I feel like that's way too niche. I'd rather see something tanky, like command ships or something really tanky to be able to like just make any kind of sino almost. To where if you see one of those, it's like okay, this is a juicy kill, but it's also pretty dangerous.
Yeah. So I heard there's things to be smug and happy and great about. What were we looking for that?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's all these arguments that have been pandered about in the public around blackout, right? And at the end of the day, everything that the proponents of blackout were screaming from the rooftops would happen. All these players would come back. It'll be a great new age of PvP, and I'm resubbing all my accounts for blackout. Yay! Well, they're full of shit, and that didn't occur. And not only did it not occur, Eve hemorrhaged a shitload of people. So you lose, shit's out. Have a nice day.
And it was more than just lose. It was, like you said, a hemorrhage. It was a flight of people away from the game. I mean,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Think about it. I mean, have we ever seen this sort of drop in our metrics where MER, whether some of the reports have been like the Jester stuff, has anyone ever seen anything like that short of Incarna? No, we haven't. So we just had the biggest emergency that Eve's seen in almost a decade.
Well,
And
I think we have seen that. That is basically what happened in Star Wars Galaxies.
ouch.
Well, no, but okay. So here's the question about this though. You say Incarna, but even Incarna wasn't this bad. I didn't feel like during Incarna that I didn't want to play. With this, I didn't want to play. There was no purpose, right? I see Eve as a sociable game. A lot of what makes Eve good and work is the fact that you can talk in local, the fact that you can spam local, the fact that you could participate in like the community that is the game. And without local and with a lot of these changes that were focused on these 10 to 20 man groups, you don't have that in Eve. Eve isn't a great PvE game. And the PvP on the ultra levels that I enjoy, the higher end rich people levels, just you don't really have it, right?
Yeah,
Like
if you go back
without
to
local.
if you go back to Incarna, people were mad. People were engaged in game. They were mad. They were canceling accounts and doing it in mass, but people were mad and, like you said, wanting to play the game. But under Blackout, I mean, there were a decent number of shit posters on Reddit in both directions, but for the most part, people were just quietly leaving, and that's how you actually lose players, and that's the kind of player loss that is hard to get back.
Well,
Yeah,
Incarna had one thing going for it too. It was very short term overall. It was just a couple weeks really, from the riots to the emergency summit to CCP saying mea culpa. Whereas this dragged on for months, and then they threw the Sino changes in, and then we saw internally it really accelerate the metrics. Like when you combined blackout plus the Sino changes, whether you like the changes or not, I think the players felt even more disheartened, and they just started leaving in droves. So we saw it accelerate.
Here, this I guess can be asked of you, Mr. Killerby. You're an NC Dot. What was the feeling like at NC Dot during Blackout? Was it hooray, like we can go PvP again? All these crabs are gonna leave, or was it, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was very weird today, especially when they announced that Blackout was going away. There were some people that were really upset about it going away, and I asked those people, like, "You guys, like, do you guys have any idea what the Blackout actually did and why you upset?" It's like, "Oh, because now all the bots and shit are gonna return, and goons are gonna have all this credit." I was like, "Bros, you guys missed the point." And so some of the line members just didn't get the plot, I guess, and were kind of upset about it. But on a leadership level, we didn't really care. The Blackout is, to us, not nearly half as interesting as the sign-up changes were, because for the sign-up changes, you actually had to change something. The Blackout didn't actually do anything except, like Gareth said, that, space felt even more empty than it did previously. And I just didn't like the idea of, to me, the reason I didn't like the Blackout was because it felt like a half-ass, or it was a half-ass approach of trying to work on something that they simply don't have the dev time to work on properly. And I just don't like that kind of way of designing the game. Like, if you want to fix something, do it properly, not just kind of, push some buttons and see what happens.
It's been super amateur hour lately. I think up there, like it feels very disorganized. I can only give my impressions, right? I work with a lot of dev teams in my real life career, and I've worked some pretty shitty ones, some outsourced offshore ones, and CCP is, they have some great talent, like at the individual contributor level, but when it starts getting to that middle management level, there seems to be no ability to translate, what Hilma would like or senior strategists would like in a vision of Eve until actual concrete things within Eve. Like there seems to be a total breakdown of developer management, effective management, where I think they've hired too many people from gaming companies, and they should have been hiring just a badass developer manager, or someone that is an agile manager, someone that really gets, agile and gets developer teams at scale and coordinating teams with just changes that could be discrete but also interlock. Like they're really missing some serious middle management talent.
That's how I felt since Siegel left. They don't have a Siegel. They don't have a John, or I think John Lander was a great voice for them. And they don't have that person who can speak to Hilmar, who's not afraid to say to Hilmar, "This is dumb. We can't do this. It will hurt us." Rather than Hilmar at the top speaking to just the ordinary devs, who the ordinary devs go, "Okay, we'll implement this for you." They needed that C-level, because if I remember correctly, didn't Hilmar buy out all the C-level people? They all left, right? When you buy all them out, there goes your, like, opposite opinions, right? The people willing to say, no, this is not going to work. This is just not a good idea. We need to approach this differently. Or if they do implement something like no blackout, they do it in a way that's not going to really destroy what they've built, right?
Think of it like vision and execution, right? There's a middle person. I like to use the office space example, the guy that's a people person that takes the requirements from the customer to engineers. They don't have that at CCP, at least that seems to be able to put all the pieces together at a high level in their head and kind of instruct others upon how they can execute against that vision. So you got a lot of talent, again, like at the developers. Like the developers know a lot of things they would like to do that would probably move the needle for Eve. But those developers getting priority and time on the development schedule from their superiors who just want to move like the MPE needle, right? Like the CCP has been very vocal about how they're going to focus talent on MPE. Like we've been down this road several times, and if you talk to someone at CCP now, you'll probably hear something like, but this time it's different because it's not just MPE. And it's like, guys, we've done little things before. We've done quality of life changes before. I applaud the effort to try to really focus on the user experience in the first 10 days. I think that is perfectly appropriate. But pivoting 70% of your company to that, like it feels Hail Mary-ish. I mean, half maybe, but what's happened is you don't have enough people and you now have Eve ongoing support only plus some NPE, and what's left for anything else is basically nothing other than very minor fixes that require, you know, variable changes or things like that, or changing numbers. But coding and features and things that we would want for Blackout instead of Blackout like observatories, there's no cycles for that when you do something like this. And
Well,
that's a conscious decision, and I'm not saying it's not their business decision to make, but it has consequences. And so you got to hope that them swinging for the fences does yield results.
Well, let's talk about the other thing that was announced today, which was
Okay.
the shared bookmarks.
Okay.
Which,
Tell us about that.
So CCP has finally released something that players have been asking for forever. Well, players have been asking for Alliance bookmarks, and in a move that it feels very not CCP to me, they took what players were asking for and they gave us something better.
Okay, explain why it's better.
Well, because it's not Alliance bookmarks. It's the ability to create your own set of bookmarks and share them.
So like an ACL
and so you
set.
You can share it using an ACL. It's not limited to Corp or Alliance. It's basically grouped. You can create a set of bookmarks and share them with whatever group of people you want.
That's actually really amazing. Especially if you're working with people who aren't in your Alliance or Corp, and being able to get all those people, like, you could literally bookmark an enemy Titan, which we've done before, like bookmark a wreck. The wreck gets blown up, and then you want to get on top of that Titan. Now you've got the ability to literally, AWACS, here we go. Someone just points out chat, that's what I'm getting at here. AWACSing. You can now create a bookmark of the thing you're going to AWACS and share that with all the hostiles that you want to kill it. Like, spies are going to have a fucking field day with this.
It's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Oh, it's going to be fucking amazing. I mean, like, the potential.
Solves all kinds of problems for wormhole groups, for nullsec groups. I mean, this is something that everyone is benefiting from.
I will tell you this will kill Bomber's Bar. Like, I know we just watched a video on Bomber's Bar from Eve Berlin, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to kill Bomber's Bar. And here's why. One of the biggest struggles with Bomber's Bar, when you have a guy in their fleet, is to leave the fleet, provide the warp in, or warp off, provide a bookmark to wherever it is that you want the people to kill the Bomber's Bar fleet to be. And you have to do all these, like, risky moves, and eventually you're going to get caught, and you're going to be banned from their fleets, and you're going to waste a character that can covert warp or covert Sino. But now, you can literally just make a bookmark where you're sitting with all of their dudes, share that bookmark to anyone you feel like, and now they're all dead. They'll never know who the character is that's doing it. Like, that kills MPSI fleets right there.
Well, dude, didn't you see the Marshy picture earlier? How he's all emo about Blackout going away. He's going to quit. He's like, oh.
Apparently, Omega Gold said the same thing. He's not going to be active in E for like the next couple months, and that people can go back to using their excavators again.
Yeah, where's that harden the fuck up now?
I don't know. I think local coming back is a good thing. I think this bookmark thing is great, because I don't think NPSI fleets are a good thing for the game. I think they kind of kill the game. But here's a question, and maybe this might be NDA or not, but where are they on the wormholes? I know he's mentioned several places that he's going to be doing some big wormhole changes. I mean, have you guys heard anything about that?
Oh, I gotta be careful. I don't know what's public and what's not on.
Right. Okay, don't say anything.
Have you heard anything? Like, what did they release? What have they said publicly?
Nothing's been released or said publicly other than Hilmar being asked a question at that one, like, fan fest that he went to, and he's like, yeah, we want to make it so that rolling wormholes are not as easy, and we want to make it so that wormholes can't be rolled, because we don't like the idea of constant wormhole rolling. We're going to change the way wormholes work in that regard.
Well, I don't know. I want to be vague on that. But I want to talk about it with you for a second, because this guy's the man. Like, so Noob Man was a pretty good wormhole CSM, but he hid shit all these years. And Zuki comes in, and like his first month, he's like, yeah, we fucking have the probe window results insta refresh as soon as a fucking hole attaches to our thing. So we know they're coming before they can even jump in. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. And it's just like he basically, wormholers have had local all of this time, or a doorbell, if you will, to their hole. If they roll their holes and pull their drawbridges up, they instantly know if someone can come in. It's like, you cowardly little Care Bears. Like, you're gonna whine about Null being too safe when all along, all this time, you've been farming in perfect safety. Like, oh my god.
Oh, and wormholes, you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the Marshy thing? Here's an exact quote. This is on Bombers Bar Discord. With local coming back, I am quitting. I provide hundreds of people with content. If I quit, this hurts CCP's bottom line, or at least I hope it does. I will be unsubscribing 180 accounts, so that's got to hurt them a little bit. So this is coming directly from Bombers Bar Discord from him. I'm sorry, that entitlist thought, like, if I ever feel that the game is bad for me, or if I'm too busy for the fucking game, like, I'm not gonna make it a point to tell the people, like, I mean, I'm gonna give you my view of this, and I don't see Marshy as a thing that matters to me, but there are people who view Bombers Bar as a way to play the game, and when you have a guy who runs a group like that, who throws a hissy fit like this, it's gonna get more people than just him to say fuck this, right? But
Look,
180
man,
accounts.
this way.
One
He's
man with
got
180 accounts, though. Holy fuck.
I know, but he's got to know that's harder than ever. Like, sinos are still changed, right? So we're just going back to when he was playing a lot before with local. So it just shows you what a little bitch he is. He's like, oh, I didn't get my little shiny cookie, and I'm going to leave now. Like, you had it for a few months, and come on.
Oh,
no, I'm well aware.
Anyone pinging or saying stuff like that is just looking for attention, I think. If you want to quit the game, quit the game. There's no reason to make some big fuss about it, in my opinion, anyways. I feel like that's just how I would do it, or I've been somewhat doing it. You know, when I just don't feel like playing EVE, I just don't play the game anymore. I'm not going to make a fucking ping on some Discord every time I decide to take a break from the game for a while because something upsets me. I don't know. Seems a bit pity.
Yeah, even in the end, CCP is a business. They need to do what makes them money. They need to have players in the game. If a change drives players out of the game, it is an objectively bad change. If a change brings more players into the game, overall, then that is objectively a good change. And an individual's opinion of it doesn't really matter if it has a significant effect on the bottom line.
Hey, you know what? I'll say it like this. Goodbye, Marshy. You know why? Olmeca only got elected and only got on the CSM because him and Marshy put 500 number one votes on there between the two of them, and maybe another person. So
let's just think about it.
His 180 Omega counts leave. I mean,
think about Omega's platform. Like, it was based around this kind of change to EVE, and now EVE ate total shit because of some stuff you guys wanted. And think about it. That has consequences next election.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it literally proves that the gameplay style that guys like Marshy and Olmeca are saying the game needs to get back to, no, it doesn't. We've all experienced this. I'm going to be honest. Umbrellas didn't happen overnight. Villy, you've been in the game as long as I have. Also, hello, Villy.
We have someone in chat saying 90% of the people that left because of blackouts are bots. That is not true. That is not true at all. Like, there's so many statistics that show that most of the bots just moved, or at least many of the bots just moved. And we know that many of the people who left are real people.
Over 6,000 characters that were in 0-0 are still active on Zkill in HiSec. All those characters just switched to HiSec Corps. We actually have those numbers, and they're being recorded on both Dotland, Zkill, and like 2 other places. That statistical number is really easy to get. But Villy's here. Villy makes a point in chat. For those who don't know, Villy's Robert Catrick's in chat. He says Bombers Bar got more capital kills before the blackout than after. So tell us about this.
Well, I mean, it's a stat that speaks for itself. The illusion of success is not actually sometimes or the perception of success is not necessarily correlated to the reality. Before the blackout, Bombers Bar actually was getting more kills per day per week than they were post-blackout. And just because of the viability of targets, there was targets everywhere to choose from. And post-blackout, there's been... You have 3 choices of where to go. Umbrella 1, 2, or 3. And, that's it. Well, realistically, that's it, yeah. And if they can't find a target in one of those areas that they can kill, then they get nothing. So now they're in a situation where things would actually go back to where they're getting more kills than they are currently. But he wants to make a statement that what's good for me is and bad for the game, is what it should be, and not what's good for the game and bad for me.
I think it's worse than that, right? Because I've always been with the Mittens view of things that ultimatums are never going to get you anywhere, and his idea of I'm just going to unsub 180 accounts because of what CCP is doing, he's full of shit. There is no fucking way he's going to quit. Like,
I don't doubt he'll fail to resubscribe a lot of accounts, but here's the important thing to remember: when the blackout was initiated, I'm sure there was more than a few, I'm going to quit over this post on Reddit. But the vast, vast, vast majority of people that quit, especially in NoSec, they just logged off. They didn't, on Reddit. They didn't cry. They just said, yeah, whatever, this isn't worth it. And they just stopped playing.
Right.
And, that was the thing that, I think really killed this in the end, was just the massive decrease in activity that many of us were seeing.
So I'll say this now. A lot of people, anyone can comment on any of you guys. I had this brought up to me a couple weeks ago, and I think it's true now more than ever. It's now 9/14. They announced June 10th that blackout was coming. That's exactly 3 months. This is now the 3-month mark. Wait, July? Yes, 3-month mark. Those 3-month subs, which is what most people would get if they're playing with 4 or 5 accounts, they would just say, fuck it, sub their characters for 3 months and play. If those people just said, okay, you're taking away, local, and just logged off and never came back for 3 months, they just didn't resub. And this is where the numbers will plummet even further. And that's why we saw, even during the meta show last week, the numbers on Friday plummeted more the following day and it just kept snowballing. Oh, so July, not June. I thought it was June 10th they announced it, but they didn't do it for like a month. Like, you had a month to get ready. And then they did the 48 hours. Right, but didn't they say they were going to get rid of local in June? Am I mistaken here? Aerith, Nominate, anyone? All 4 of you are CSM members. You tell me.
Well, we knew before. I don't know, because I don't.
Politicians don't need to do dates, bro. That's not how it works.
I can never remember when something's private and public, like the dates or anything.
Yeah, like I know. I don't want to fuck things up.
I just don't even know.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point. We don't want to do that. So somebody find those numbers. But here. Okay, so local's coming back. There's been some big changes to the game. There's big changes potentially coming. Does the game... All right, okay, how do I word this without... Because I don't want to ask a question that I know you guys can't answer, because all 4 of you are under NDA. So I've got to frame this right. So just give me 1 minute here. My willingness to play the game isn't really going to change with local coming back. Maybe in the sense of NGSA, right? I have NGSA. NGSA numbers have plummeted with blackout, right? That feeling of we're the big bad boogeyman went from 200 people AFK camping to 26 average, right? 26 average people. The guys that were multi-boxing NGSA have currently been doing it with 1 account. All 3 of them, I have 3 guys that do over 10 accounts each. I think it's like they make up about 50 of the active people or characters. Went down to 1 character each that were camping. So, okay, it was announced July 5th. But the question is do you get those people back? Those big time multi-boxers that were doing 10, 20, 30 accounts that just said, fuck it, why am I doing all these accounts if CCP is this much of a shitty thing? Do they come back?
To some
Gradually.
But one of the other things, though, is that there's a fairly common thread among those kind of players where, as they're playing the game, they sort of expand what they're doing. They add more accounts, more ships, more effort. And as soon as they break away from that it doesn't take long, just even a few days or a week, they get to the point of like, wait a minute, I don't actually need to do this. Why am I spending all of this time on this game? I'm just going to move on now.
Right. And I guess that leads me to the next question. This reminds me, and I know this may be a bad analogy, and y'all can tell me if it's a bad analogy, but it's like trying to rebuild confidence in CCP the same way the U.S. banks tried to rebuild confidence in people to put their money in a bank after the big crash. My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about how she had, at the time, about $2,000 in the bank and lost it all during the crash. So and she never trusted banks until like the 60s. Like, it took her a long ass time to believe to put her money in the bank. The question I have here is, you have these guys that did 10 or 20 or 30 characters that say, fuck this. Does bringing back local reinstill that confidence that CCP is not going to fuck it up even more as time goes on?
To be fair, Boat, I think you literally just gave a perfect analogy. I want to give you a standing applause here. You know,
but that's the
I
question.
think your analogy was really good. You know, I mean, so it will take a little bit of time for people to regain their faith in the banks and in CCP.
I think that Aerith sort of hit on this. CCP touched the stove. They haven't had a really big fuck up that blew up in their faces in a long time, and I think that they'll hopefully learn from this.
But my question is, what did CCP do to make the press not hammer them so hard? Because I saw one article that had negative reviews about the last couple of months.
Because
where is the press?
Well, it's like people were mad about Incarna, so it got a lot of press. There weren't a lot of people who were really that mad about Blackout. It was just people wandering off, and that's not really dramatic. So it doesn't get a whole lot of press.
So you're saying, like...
It's important to remember as well, everybody was willing to try this at the start. All the no blocks, everybody was okay to try this for a little bit. Nobody thought it was a terrible idea. Like, we've talked about this for years. Everybody's okay to try. But, it's after you got, like, week 3, people were like, this fucking sucks, please stop. And then it didn't stop. So that's when you really had that kind of slow downturn begin. And that's why you didn't see it much in the media, because, for the first week or two, most people were like, sure, let's give it a try. Could be cool.
Well, the other thing is, I think we and Null were very quiet on purpose. Like, we had collectively, especially in the CSM and our own goon leadership, had decided that CCP needed to touch the stove. They needed to learn a lesson. Anti-CCP propaganda or blackout propaganda wasn't going to be helpful. All it was going to do is potentially hurt Eve more, right? It would drive more players away. It would exacerbate this. And the really unfortunate thing is just how long it took CCP to pull their head out of their ass on this one. Because numbers don't lie, data doesn't lie. And what really more concerns me is, my impression is CCP they did this without knowing what sort of data they would grade it with. And that scares me. It's been very clear in the way they talk publicly. It's been very clear in their silence on some of this narrative. This is what CCP does when they don't know what to do, which is usually the proper course of action. Do nothing. But do nothing in this case meant leave blackout on, and it just kept exacerbating the problem.
Right. Like, I think if they had turned it back on after even a month and said, okay, we're going to look at our data for the next couple of months. We're going to go back to the status quo. And then if we feel that the data was good, we're going to address going back to it. You know what I mean? Like, that would have made sense. 3 months, almost 2 months of it? Like, it just, I don't know. But here's a question I have, though, and to go back to what Aerith said about, or Anamina and Aerith both said about, what was the statement Aerith made? I just got a brain fart.
Touch the stove.
Touch the stove. I don't know about that, because, again, someone just pointed out to me that they worked in media and they just feel a need to write about it. I think it ties back into what Villy just said. A lot of people just got up and walked away. There wasn't that care to. It was like that feeling. I don't know. In my case, maybe I'll speak for myself here. It felt to me in this moment that walking away from the game and going, okay, CCP is going to figure this out or the game is going to die. Either way, I'll probably come back in a month or so and things will be back the way it needs to be, right? So I come back in a month and either the game is good or the game is bad. And I'll know then, right? Like, it doesn't feel like there's a vested interest in my end to keep going at it like there was with Incarna, right? Like, I wasn't mad with Incarna changes, to be quite honest. I wasn't mad with a lot of changes CCP's made. They've made some pretty drastic changes in my lifetime of this game that affected me or my group of friends that play this game pretty heavily. But it still didn't want to make me just say, you know what, CCP, you're dumb, and I'll come back when you stop being dumb.
Well, that's my point is, if we had gotten rabble rousing and got the pitchforks and torches, all that would have done is made the drop even more precipitous, and we'd have lost even more players from Eve. Like, this was very much of like, hey, I need CCP to burn themselves in the stove, but I don't want them to burn the goddamn house down. So let's just kind of stand by with a fire extinguisher. And when they start screaming, we'll charge in and be like, hey, we're here to save you, baby. And now we can start hyping and trying to get our players back. But anything rabble rousing would have just been totally detrimental to the game.
You know what I think, though? And I'm going to give you credit here. I think making the nullsec first thing that you did may have prevented an even greater hemorrhaging, because it got everyone on the same page to go, you know what? Everyone agrees CCP's fucking up. We're going to tell our people CCP's fucking up, and we're going to keep playing the game, and we're just going to avoid the bleeding being worse. And when CCP finally sews that fucking wound up, we'll be ready to go back to the game.
Yeah, we didn't want to have additional stresses on any of our organizations from in-game events. Like, it was very, people were like, oh, you all blued up together. It's like, well, it was more and more about, if you have an external threat, we all want to band together and go, look, we're not going to make your life any harder. You don't make our life any harder. And let's just wait till CCP returns to their senses, and then we can make each other's lives harder again. That's fundamentally what Null First was about. But now it's much more formalized in sort of like a space UN. So yes, CCP has done permanent damage to the game through either sub loss or the creation of Null First. Like, there's no spinning that.
Yeah. See, here's my view, and Killer B and Billy, as FCs, I want your opinion on this. When CCP does something like this, and let's be honest, 2 months of it is pretty fucking crazy, and that's a long time in the terms of CCP trying out a social experiment, because that's just what this is. As an FC who could potentially point a finger and say, my people go, does this give you a lot of confidence to do that, knowing that a week from now or 2 weeks from now, CCP could come along and do this again?
What do you mean?
All right, Mig said this a couple weeks ago when you were on. It's that idea of chaos, uncertainty. It's really hard to take the might of the Imperium and push it in a direction, right? Because of how long it takes to spool up, how much effort and logistics go into a war, when you don't know if a week into your war, you're going to have to turn around and come back home. Then it's just a waste, right? Because let's be honest, Eve needs wars. Eve needs shooting and killing and massive kabooms to hype up press for the game, to hype up a need to play the game, to get more people into the game. It's very hard to get people to want to play the game when all of Eve is going, you know what, CSP, you're fucking up so bad. We just don't want to shoot each other.
Right. For a war to work, everybody needs to know the rules. And when the rules are changing and we don't know if they're going to change, when they're going to change, or what might happen, there is no war. Like, you just can't.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like, obviously we wouldn't be in the war we're currently in if these changes had come in before the war. Like, we would just never have started the way we did. Just because, as you say, you want a solid foundation before you engage. You don't want CCP opening a second front on you. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, it feels like that, right? When there's so much uncertainty, you're having to fight the game developers themselves more than you fight the opposing person. That's the scary thing. Because, again, there's a lot of games where the meta changes constantly. I say that like Dota and League and stuff. But you'll know in those games, they never change the meta up right before a major thing is going on, either a tournament or a
yes,
world.
They do, but all the time.
You know. Well, like, look at Dota too. Once the World Championship started, they didn't change anything mid-championship, right? And with Eve, everyone that tends to go to war in Eve has to know that the game's not really going to have this gigantic change. You never see big wars start or be in the middle of when we know there's a big patch coming. I've never seen it in 12 years. Maybe you guys noticed something I didn't, but I haven't seen CCP do that.
Only once has it ever happened, but it was, everyone knew it was coming, which was the Casino War. Everyone saw that coming. So we kind of knew what was about to happen, and it was so different than the existing systems that it was like an entirely new solid system. So that's the only time I can think of. But yeah, like, we always freeze up. That we always wait. We always see, because for years, like the old adage was, within our internal leadership, we didn't want to be the victims of the first patch bug or first patch weirdness. usually around like before tie-dye, like black screening or black holing. Like we always wanted someone else to jump a dread fleet first or a super fleet first and see what happened to them. Like there was very much in the meta about that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really busy in real life. Killer B said he was really busy in real life. And I just don't see, like, in the past, I'd be busy in real life, but I would still feel a need to want to go play Eve. And I don't feel that right now. It's the first time in a long time, I'd say a good 10 years, where I haven't wanted to just log in each day and do something. Right now, I'm just I have my character subbed just in case. Like today. Today's the first time I logged in 2 weeks since the school year started. And that was just to DD some dreads, right? Like
it happened to me. Like my real life has exploded. I had tons of things going on, tons of people I had to deal with in my life, or socialize with, whatever. End of summer, school starting, all that going on in this period, and career exploding, and then this happens, and I'm trying to kind of manage it through the CSM to some degree. But there were days or even weeks where I just said, screw it, and like all my production died off, like a lot of my market trading died off. Like even the CSMing, I'm like, what do I have to do here when I just have to sit there and watch this train wreck happen and then pick up the pieces when it's over? It's just so demoralizing.
And I felt that way with even places like Jabber, where I would normally chit chat. I would go in, say hi, be there a few seconds, and then off I'd go, right? I'd do a little bit of back scroll, and that'd be it. But someone points this out here in chat. He goes, I don't know why it has to be only the big fights between the goons and Pam Pam should be allowed. There's so many of the players actually feel that way right now. No, that's not the case. It's just that when you have all of 0-0 gravitate towards a certain direction to feel safe enough to do activities in the game that they enjoy, right? Like I've said this for years. The only reason I'm in the corp I'm in, rather than Goonwolf proper, is because my corp has set a policy. Do what you want. There's no requirements on anything else. Do what you want. So there's never been a reason to do anything else, right? And that's the situation. I think with a lot of people in Eve is they want to get to a place where they feel comfortable enough to do whatever they want in a video game. And PanFam and Test and Goons and Imperium and Legacy, all these people provide that, I guess, safety, or I guess social safety net, that they can log into Eve, do whatever they want, and log off an hour later, right? Especially with the game being as old as it is. It's 16 years running now. The player base, in some cases, are 16 years of playing the game on some people. You have to have that level of comfort. You do. Oh, maybe that's just me. It feels that way, but that's how I feel.
Well, I've tried to explain this to CSP. I think Anominous said it a few times to them, where the player base is aged. Eve has the oldest player base of any MMO that I know of, which is saying something. And we're not getting any younger. People have career and families now and children. So the casual game style is creeping into Eve, and it has been for a very long time. And I think I consider myself a very hardcore Eve player, like PvP wise. Like I do market PvP obviously now, but I recognize that game style is not for the majority of players now. But I do want that to remain something that's a hardcore part of Eve, where I can choose to be predatory upon large groups of people. That's my game style that I like to do. So, but I need those people to be around, and I'd rather be a shark in the ocean than a huge fish in a little pond. And so that's the analogy I use whenever I talk to CCP. And I think that's what most of Imperium leadership believes too. We don't want to be the last guy standing, because we will be. Like everyone knows that's going to be us at this point. I'd rather this game go on for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at a lot of people in chat. There's a comment here that says exactly, Eve is already like a fucking job, and I have a damn job already. Yeah, that's the case with Eve. But at least with that job in Eve, when people feel like they had to play 4 hours ago or 5 hours ago, or in the case of huge fights, 12, 16, 18 hours, that has to happen, right? Because Eve is such a game that you can't just walk away from it when it's going well. And that's what is scary when people just say, fuck it, I'm walking away to do something else. I have something else that's more important than 16 hours of time. Then like something is up, right? That's when you start to get a little concerning. Or concerned. Sorry, not concerning. Concerned.
Yeah,
I
this is
don't
a point that Olmec and I actually agree on. One thing conceptually, which is there's not enough death in Eve, and I've been saying this to CCP for years that things need to die more. Like I've been very vocal that I have publicly stated that I'm a proponent of removing or heavily nerfing remote reps. Period. I get it. We have to find a new role for Logi, whatever. But I think things need to die more. It's because I remember fondly the old slugfest before the rise of Logi, where 2 BS fleets would enter, and each about a quarter of one fleet leaves and half of another leaves. Like it was just brutal.
Ship of the line, baby.
And I feel like that's good for markets. It's good for the economy. It's good for these massive mineral outputs you're seeing from Whirlpools. So anything that makes things die more.
It's never fun when you're looking at a fight and your options are either don't fight or lose your fleet and not kill anything. Whereas if you have a fight and even if you lose but you still do a lot of damage and both sides lose a lot of ships, regardless of who wins it, people have fun on both sides.
I think this is a cultural thing though. And you may correct me if I'm wrong, but for a generation of players in this game, they were taught that losing ships was bad because as an FC, you were told if you lost ships, if you lost a fleet in a way that, because you made a mistake, a simple little mistake, that you may not be an FC anymore. There was this cultural push towards that idea of building fleet comps that either kill everything 100% or don't die, right? There was no middle ground. Like if you whelped a fleet and there was no like, oh, you just whelped a fleet, who cares? People are starting to get to that point again. You're starting to hear Mittens every once in a while go, hey, we needed to whelp that fleet. Good, have fun. But there was 3 or 4 years there where people were like afraid to lose a fleet, or they would only fly T3 cruisers because they knew that T3 cruisers could disengage if shit got bad, right? You lose all your Logi, you leave. Game over. So,
even more
there
than
was
that.
push.
It's the undock game. It's before the undock. So what I want to nerf is the blue balls or hell dunk meta. Like I want that meta to die, where you don't know you're going to stomp before you undock because you have the perfect counter. That the other guy needs to have the ability to fuck you up too if he's out first, right? Just because I hate that whole like meta where you let the enemy form first so you see what they're in and you do the perfect counter. It's like screw that. Like I want you to die regardless, at least some.
How do you do that?
No fucking Logi. Like everyone knows that if they have enough DPS just to start blapping things where they can warp off, that everything's gonna die.
Okay, but here's the question: what level of Logi do you remove? Do you remove all of it? Like as in like faxes and that? Because here's the thing: you get rid of faxes, nobody flies Titan. You get rid of that rep.
Only you mean no cowards fly Titans? Is that what you're saying?
No. Like I'll be honest. No. I'm not a. Yeah, we all know. Everyone that's ever watched this show knows I'm not a coward Titan. I will drop my Titan in any stupid situation whatsoever. There's several goons like me who just don't care because I know it's going to get reimbursed if it dies, right? Like there's no care about that. But there's this feeling of that's because I knew that even if I did something stupid, it was a calculated stupid because there was somebody I was on comms with. My fit was right. There were people in place to come save me, right? You remove that feeling of safety because you can still do dumb shit, but feel safe, right? And that's the problem, I think, if you remove Logi.
So you're saying that if you remove Logi, like facts, that fewer people will fly Titans. Like I'm not seeing the downside to the argument here.
No, right, yeah, that's the thing. Like, so here's the thing. Eve's gotten to the point in the game where there are thousands and thousands of Titans in a single fucking fight. And if you can have 1,000 Titans in a single fight, Logi don't matter. But if you remove Logi, there are so many replaceable Titans in the game, and there's so many Titans in the game that without Logi, Dread Bombs become king. Dreads are the ultimate ship. They kill everything. Without Logi, you just have Dreads. You brick take your Dreads as big as possible, and you throw Dreads at things. But eventually, nobody flies their Nyx. Nobody flies their
I'm still not
Leviathan.
seeing the downside. Like
I know there's a lot of people that feel like, hey, there should be no death to supers. But I think supers bring an aspect of the gameplay that bring people to the game, right?
Dude,
they give people that final hope.
We have more than 10,000 supers now in the Imperium. That's so absurd. Like they
I
need to
know,
start
no, it is. Yes, and that's great for the market people. But you have to understand, as a newbie playing the game, when you first got in the game, when you looked at a Titan, did it make you want to get one?
Yes, but not never lose one. Like you're.
Oh
yes,
no!
I believe again have an aspirational goal of a Titan, but they should die, and they're not dying. We have thousands of Titans now, dude.
But here's the thing: nobody uses them. You get rid of logistics, no one will ever use them even more so than that.
Dude, if you're saying they never use them now, and the logistics will mean they never use them again, like then fine. Only the strong Spartans will fucking use Titans.
Right, but that's the question. I guess that's what Billy was asking. How do you get people to want to use them more? That's what CCP needs to be doing.
Like, okay, CCP. Let's take that one fight. What was the fight we were in? I forget. It was one of the 4 Keepstar fights or whatever. Like it was a good fight, and then one side decides they're losing too much because they're not breaking through reps anymore, and they couldn't DD it. Like if they whiffed a DD even a little bit, we repped it up, and they whiffed a whole cycle, and they lost Titans that we didn't. Right? Imagine though if they just said, you know what, we're going to lose 50 Titans, but the enemy's going to lose 30, and we know that. Like, and reps aren't going to matter. We'll go to downtime, and you'll just see us trade till downtime. That's the Titan fight I want to see.
Yeah, but again, that's the thing. CCP, like here's a good one. I think CCP could do this. They're looking at ways to prevent, like, say, a Nyx from doing Sanctum so that VNIs can do it. Because maybe they're looking at, like, the bigger the ship gets, the less money they make from that site. Here's what they need. They need a way, and I know people are going to tell me I'm crazy, that there's a benefit to PvEing in a Titan or a Super that draws them out in enough of a way they could be hunted. Because if you can hunt Titans and Supers, you bring them into a situation where the fight can happen. Right now, of the last 3 or 4 major Titan fights have been scripted. And what I mean by scripted is maybe a Keepstar was dropped in a place that it shouldn't have been dropped, and then both sides went, okay, we're going to save that Keepstar, we're going to kill that Keepstar. And then the battle ensued. Or, that kind of thing. So it's been scripted to a degree. But like today, the 2 Titans died in the Imperium, right? You need to have unscripted situations that generate fights. Like, I thought that's what removing Sinos fucked everything
I'll give you an example. Do you know how you get unscripted fights? You put yourself in a situation to get unscripted fights. So I've got my entire Shield Super fleet on the border with Fraternity, who's got their entire fleet of Supers. We're basically within 12 AU of each other. There is a chance for an unscripted fight at any time. The only thing that keeps that from happening mostly nowadays is time zones. But to be fair, your super fleet is in the center of Delve, and there's not a super fleet anywhere that can match that, right? And because you don't split your fleet either, there's never going to be a situation where that can happen, right? Yeah. Because the fleet is so massive, your super fleet is fucking god tier. Like at that level, there's no chance for anybody to compete with it. So
we have the big black Titans. Everybody knows it. If we deploy, we squish somebody. If we don't deploy, we stagnate. It's a total Faustian bar.
Yeah. So, by the way, NC Dot just lost 2 Titans.
Yeah, they were doing an event.
Yeah, they were doing some kind of fun thing. I also saw that you guys bombed yourselves in Feroxes. I thought that was pretty hilarious. I liked it. Made me laugh. But I guess that's the question. I guess that's the question on the table, right? Is do we get to that point?
What point?
Can CCP get to the point where they promote people to do that again? Like promote people to actually go and get out there and do their shit.
Oh, sure. If they make some kind of weird PvE experience where like the bosun ratting types, shotgunning NPCs or something is really, really, really loot valuable, then yeah, you'll see a lot of Titans out there and a lot of Titans dying. Like I do agree that Titans need to be out on the field or alone or in risky situations more, but they also need to not be so savable, and it can't be just Sino changes. It's going to have to come in the form of like remote rep nerfs of some kind.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think we're definitely going to see more supers probably die ratting than before. I don't even know if we will though, actually, because the risk reward has not actually been increased. The reward is a lot less, so you might see proportionally less
See-
supers riding.
Yeah. I think with local coming back, we're going to see a lot of the super capital ratters go back to it. Not all of them,
Yeah.
but a fair.
Okay, here's what I'd like to see, and you could disagree with me or agree with me. I think there should be a progression to the way you make money, right? And the progression, what I mean by that is the thing that you do with your Knicks is dangerous for your Knicks, but you're going to make a ton of money if you do it, right? So it puts you in a dangerous situation, so it's risky to you, but the reward is better. There are situations in EVE where you literally can do a ton of money making content in the cheapest fucking ship on the planet and be just fine doing that. Or you can make a ton of money not even having to risk a ship, i.e. market warfare. Not to say that those mechanics in a sandbox are bad, but I think if you own a Titan and are willing to risk that Titan in PvE for a potential huge gain, that's great. Like, look at the Satios, right? People do those in 5 or 6 Titans. It's very fucking risky, and people almost lose Titans every time they do them. But
People
the
have
reward
lost
is
Titans doing
huge. Right. Well, no, I'm talking about the NPCs. Like, you almost die to the
Yes.
NPCs, but it's
People
worth
have
it.
lost Titans to the NPCs.
Okay, so yeah, that's like there needs to be more like that. Not as much of a payout, but something like that.
Except more than one person gets to loot the game.
Yeah, there needs to be like a gigantic reward for gigantic risk, right? If I put my Leviathan in a site, my Leviathan's going to do the site. It's going to do the site in X number of minutes, but it's going to make the money for it. What's a FOB? I don't know what a FOBS is.
FOBs are the Los Exotios, basically.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. Like a normal Haven, but like a super Haven, right? Like one designed for Titans and Supers that puts risk to a Titan or Super, but pays more. What do you think of that, Aerith?
I mean, maybe like if you're talking like a Titan Abyssal, but it would need to be something where it can't only be the players regulating you whether you die or not. Like the environment needs to be ready to kill you too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the
Otherwise,
NPCs
it'll
could.
just-
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you have to like work with a buddy who's got reps, or work with a buddy in a second Titan, and you're both are risking your ass. Right,
it'd have to be a lot more than a buddy. Otherwise, it's just your ult. We all know that.
Right. But no, but even if it is just your ult, that's fine. But then now you have 2 Titans doing PvE in a risky situation. Now players show up.
So, like, well, that's the thing. Like, if players can show up, then players can show up to help you just as much as they can show up.
Yeah, then we have our fight situation. Then we have that
Well,
situation of organic fighting.
The problem is if those resources are available in, deep 0-0 space, then you end up with them being industrially farmed with very little risk.
Sure. But in the day and age of bombers, bar, and stuff like that, there has to be... Okay, this is my opinion in this. We're out of time here, so I'll give my opinion on this, and then you guys comment, and then we'll call it a day. My opinion is the risk for reward when you get into the higher ships is only in PvP and not in PvE. And there needs to be a PvE aspect to draw out more Supers and Titans into the field to be shot at.
I agree.
And I think CCP could do that.
Sure, if they had dev time, which they don't.
My question, Aerith, why the fuck do they have 30 art team devs? I heard this in
Dude.
Berlin.
Like the art team has been massive for years. Like it's this massive amount of people. Is it my leak? I can't leak, but I will say that
they said it was 30 today.
I suspect like more than half of the shit we never even see. Like the stuff that they just discard or they don't do, or it's just,
the art stuff.
Yeah. Like I have seen some crazy shit as a CSM where like that is amazing, and then you're like, oh, it never got here.
So I mean, why? Why do you need such a? I mean, is it because they don't use as much as they do that they need such a massive art team?
I will say this: the one thing EVE does do well, it is a very beautiful game. So I'm not gonna really shit on the art team because they're probably the best team at CCP.
I was gonna troll about this earlier. Someone told me that I needed to make a joke about when they announced the EVE Berlin, they had 30 devs. I needed to make the joke on this show that it's no longer EVE Online, it's now EVE Citizen. But I didn't want to go too far into that. Tired of my playstyle getting nerfed into the ground. Well, what's your playstyle? That's the question. I mean, we're out of time here, so if you guys want to say anything else.
Scrub Lord.
I mean, I'm not sure how anyone can claim that their play style is something that existed for 3 months that was initially was explicitly an experiment.
Yeah.
And it went wrong. Come on, Killer, give us Killer left. Shit.
Killer had to go. He had to go to bed. Anyone else?
Side note,
Anything else?
I was also having a lot of fun in Blackout doing small gang stuff, and it was fun, but it was also really shitty gameplay for the people on the other side, and it was killing the game's player count. Like, people were leaving. Therefore it is objectively bad, even though I was personally having fun with it.
Yeah, but we know like, because I've been advocating for some sort of no local, but now we know it's got to be a system in which the null people that want to feel safe and want to feel like they're in a system with a lot of people and their friends are around, like, and we're going to have to allow something for them. That's going to be granular, I think, sec of some kind.
Without that, you don't have a game. I'm sorry. Eve doesn't have enough. Eve doesn't have enough. What's that game called? Warframe-like aspects in the PvE game to keep people interested in PvE. You have to have the social aspect. If it wasn't for the ability to chat with friends and play with friends on a massive level while doing PvE, the game wouldn't work. It just wouldn't happen. Nerf the bomber meta, and then maybe no local would be doable. Yeah, that's the point. You nerf the ability for bombers. Because, I mean, we've gotten to the point now, and Billy, you can comment on this too, because we do have to go, where people show up at 400 fucking bombers. There's nothing that stops that. I mean, you're having carriers get alpha every time those bombers shoot torpedoes.
Not
right?
really,
Like,
no. Like, the
the
thing that
400?
stops it is capitals. Yeah, 400 capitals is still manageable. If you have enough facts and enough supers and enough titans. Because then they can't come close enough, or they risk a boson, and the super carrier fighter drones will eat them quick enough. But, like, if they show up with 400 bombers, you're going to lose some caps. But you can stabilize the situation with 50 to 100 capitals in a few minutes. But there's no way to stabilize against 400 bombers with anything short of, like, 50 to 100 caps. Unless you can also form 200 subcaps, which is not something that can be done in minutes, right? It's something that takes tens of minutes, usually.
And as we saw with Horde today, 200 bombers from Init were able to take on a Munin fleet and 50 supers. And they still managed to kill a few carriers and two oracles. So it's not about who the fuck fields at Apex. It's when you have the idea that you have a group of, you have a fleet that has 150 bombers, and then another fleet that has 150 bombers, and another fleet that has 150 bombers. It's not one group. Because they're not blue to each other, they all just work together to kill the same target. Right? It's the age of bombers. We're in an age of bombers. Bombers literally run the game. CCP has said before they need to look at addressing wormholes. See, here's the thing now. With wormholes the way they are, bombers are the best ship in the game in mass numbers to go through a wormhole. Because you could send 200 through 4 or 5 times and come back 4 or 5 times. You know, and there's a reason wormholes were limited in size, is to prevent 200-man fleets to sally forth. But in the age of Stuka fleets, you don't got to worry about the size of wormholes. And there's actually specific wormholes that work perfectly with Stuka fleets and those 60 wormhole drifter holes that just appear and have shitloads of drifter holes. So,
well, to me, the issue with bomber fleets is not the damage they do; it's the mobility they have and the ability to just go from one region in the game to another region for basically free, right? Like, and you know, it's on Reddit right now that they apparently increased the amount of wormholes and the ability of people to do that, and it's just such a terrible thing. Like, when you can't have clear lines of, like, when you move into what is it called, a non-contiguous kind of environment, it changes the dynamic of how you defend so heavily. And I think that by far is the biggest problem. It's just that there's no way to properly defend. If you don't see them forming with a spy, you have no way to know that 400 people are about to show up next door to you, and you have 3 minutes to save a super if you're lucky.
Right, and here's the thing with bombers on those scales. When you have 200 bombers just appear out of nowhere, and they do so much DPS, is even if you do have subcaps and you try to save your super, that's 200 ships with 200 bombs specifically designed to deal with small subcap fleets. If you've got 200 bombers and they're FC'd right and they're trained right, They can just wave after wave after wave bomb you over and over and over again. Defender missiles do nothing. If you've got a 50, 60-man defense fleet trying to stop 200 frigates, you're just going to get obliterated by bombs. And Munins are literally the best anti-bomb ship in the game currently, and they just got plastered as the link was linked by Sugar. So you can't have what bombers have right now. Bombers literally have the ability to bomb subcaps and kill capitals with torpedoes. And they can even kill the fucking fighters with their torpedoes because they bring Kikomoras and have 20 or 30 of those, which obliterate fighters. So it's like the game right now, you have to choose. I think bombers are great for the game. There should be a ship in the game. Like, do like they did with carriers, right? Carriers used to be able to triage and carrier. So they made a whole new ship that would literally rep. It doesn't do any damage, and one that did damage but didn't rep. They need that with bombers. You need to have a ship that can do the bombs, i.e. throw bombs, and a ship that does torpedoes and uses the battleship torpedoes in a frigate-sized hull. Right? You need that split, because right now, being able to do both, too powerful. And this is coming from a guy that's done bombers for 10 years. That's my feeling. You need two ships that do two different roles. You cannot have bombers who can bomb subcaps and shoot torpedoes at capitals. Right? That's my feeling. I don't know what you guys think.
I don't know. To me, the issue is still the mobility more than anything else. The fact that you can put 400 bombers or 400 people through a fucking, wormhole and just show up next door, and I get no warning except for, super tackled and a minute later super dead, or work was tackled, he's got 4 minutes on panic is not, it doesn't encourage content. It encourages just, it forces you to use caps, because otherwise, if you can't use caps, generally the workers are basically just left for dead in most cases.
Right. I mean, look, I would have no problem with wormholes if it was balanced for frigates as well as it's balanced for battleships. You can't take a 150-man battleship through a wormhole because you can't get back out of the wormhole. And if that's the truth of it, right? You're not going to send that many battleships through there. You can keep them as frigates and keep them having the bombs and torpedoes, but their ability to transverse wormholes, it's really broken right now. And especially when there's wormholes designed for them, i.e. those 60 wormhole spawning frigate wormholes that they get.
I don't think people would mind if it was battleships as much, to be honest. Just because part of the other problem is that, the bombers go in, they do their thing, then they boosh out, and they're 200 kilometers to warp to the wormhole, and they're gone. And you have no opportunity to really make them pay in any reasonable way for coming in. They're in, they're out, they do their damage, and, there's so little risk taken by the bomber fleet that it's not appropriately balanced.
And that's the thing, too. Even if, all right, so you boost them out, right? And let's say you do have a fleet and their wormhole's 2 or 3 jumps away. Well, now the bombers are just going to cloak and get out, right? The boosters are going to be left for dead. We'll get them out whenever, or they'll just die. You lose 3 or 4 ships. Now you're blops bridging out those bombers. They're getting out fine, and they've the vast majority of the fleet's ready to go right again, right? I think that would be a big deal. Someone says this: make bombers invulnerable to boost mechanics. Because that's the thing, right? Like, no one ever had a problem with battleships using MJDs. Like, we see Raven fleets and Rock fleets. But you could counter those because those couldn't take 4 or 5 gates in a row to get to a fight, because it was going to take them a long fucking time to get there. And the risk of them getting out of there safely was too great. Bombers made up for that.
I honestly really like that idea, making stealth bombers immune to booshes.
You think that would balance them?
It might, actually.
Because then they can't just come in, kill a thing, and get out, right? Like,
dude, we need to end this show because DB already had 2 good things today, and if there's a third, the universe.
Well, actually, that was somebody from chat, not.
No, that was someone from chat that said that. Someone from chat recommended it. But that's a great thing. Like, if you compare bombers to, look at Initiative. I'll use Initiative here. They used bombers for boosting Stuka fleets, and they had those Raven fleets. Those Raven fleets could literally tank a Keep Star because they would just outboost the missiles and constantly move around. And because that's another thing too. Missiles still do damage as long as you can lock the target, even if you get boosted. So Ravens worked great, but Ravens couldn't take a gate go through the gate safely. There was still that risk that they were to get caught on the gate and killed. So if the wormhole was 2 or 3 jumps away from the target, that's what made bombers so fucking great. getting to where they need to get to with a cloak and no local. Beautiful. I don't know. I think that's a big deal. I think that would balance it pretty hard. But I still think that the Bombers right now are the jack of all trades. They do everything well enough to make them worth it for their cost. They cost 60 million ISK, and they can do as much damage as a battleship. They're as small as a frigate. They're as agile as a frigate, and they can warp cloaked. And the fact that they're so cheap, you could literally lose a fleet of 200 of them, and who gives a fuck? You know? Yep. Another suggestion was this. Bush bomber fleets can hit the 60k. Why not lower the range of their damage? Make them have to get within 10k or 15k to do that much damage. Okay, yeah, another thing K Color points out. They do AoE damage with bombs, and they can completely wipe out your capacitor. Huh. There's just so many ways that they could address this. Because the bombers do so many things well. That you take away just
like
one
the range
thing.
idea.
The range idea? Well, someone said that before. About a month ago, that if you make them have the same range as their bomb, like you put them within point range, you put them at risk, right? Because then your boosters are at risk of being tackled. Because right now, if they're sitting at 60k throwing torpedoes, like all the videos you see, they get in any kind of danger, they boosh away because the boosters will never get tackled. But if they have to be close enough with their torpedoes to actually shoot the target, well, then they're in danger if their boosters getting tackled. Because you can't boost your fleet if the boosters can get tackled, because you can't apply your damage unless you're on top of the target. That's just me. I love bombers. Don't get me wrong. I love bombers. But there's so many things that the bombers do so well now that under a good FC, you're gonna lose. You can't fight it. You can't fight bombers. Doesn't work. You have to have multiple fleets to fight one bomber fleet. We've seen Initiative lose bomber fleets that way before, where you have 2 or 3 fleets, all different points of the area, shooting at one fleet. Then they get obliterated. But, Bushing plus bombers issue. No, I don't think Bushing affects it that much. Because, again, bombers sit at 60k. So we do. You fleet warp your fleet, or you bridge in 60k off, you align out, you shoot the target, you fleet warp. Bushing doesn't matter then. I think Bushing just made it so that the FC could keep most of his fleet alive. I don't know. We're out of time. We've been going on for fucking 80 minutes. I'm done talking. Anyone else? Anything else?
No, kill it.
God, we need Mittens not to show up more often, Aerith. We get so many fucking good ideas coming out of my head.
Yeah, we don't get any good funny expressions, though.
Oh, actually, we do. You're wrong.
I should have said anything. We were almost out of here. Jesus.
I keep that just for occasions like this.
Keep that for your wank session later.
We always have Mittens on standby.
What the fuck have I got myself involved with here?
You got yourself involved in this a long time ago, friend. All right, well, we got to go. Thank you guys for coming. You guys, I almost didn't do the show this week because Mittens wasn't going to be around. I didn't really have anything to talk about. So thank you, CCP, for giving me shit to talk about, and you four, including Killer B, for showing up. So thanks, guys.
You definitely had stuff to talk about. There's no doubt about that one.
All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye, stream.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.